meetings or masks. He even talked about needing to introduce, a motion that has a comment that would limit vaccine mandates.
Beth, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Muted.
Oh, you're muted.
I was muted on there. This computer was muted. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My apologies.
Was I muted?
No, just me.
Or just
Well,
you?
the computer was
No.
muted, so maybe everybody is muted.
No, we've heard nothing anybody said since the beginning, other than
I-
the Canada.
My apologies. I didn't say anything really important yet.
There was no pecuniary interest. And
No.
we're now on to the agenda.
Okay, so I'll just go back. We did Canada. I read the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement Statement. No one disclosed of pecuniary interest. Did you have a disclosure to do, Mayor Comrie?
No, I don't. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So now we're just on approval of the agenda. And it was moved by Councillor Lamb and seconded by Councillor Woods. And I believe that Councillor Lamb was suggesting an addition to 11.2.
No, I was suggesting that we defer it and not talk about it tonight. The reason being that the information was not properly circulated within the community. I had several calls on it. Some of the people I got calls from are here tonight. They had nothing to go by. All there was a memorandum, but the actual agreement was not out in the public. And I think that's a very dangerous thing in terms of trying to be transparent in terms of what we do. This is a very important agreement that we have to discuss whether we're going to sign it and what's going to be in there. And the public hasn't had it. So we certainly shouldn't be discussing it. That would be the last thing that we'd want to do as a, we've got to be transparent. And even last week we had a closed meeting and Councillor Woods and I had tried to get the legal papers for this or legal opinion for this release, but that was defeated. But so be it. There's no context for the public to know what you're looking at, so we shouldn't be discussing it. So I would either say we defer it or remove it, whatever.
Defer it to the September 20th meeting?
Yeah, to the next meeting so that it can be circulated. The agreement itself can be circulated in the community. People can look at it. People can ask questions of councillors, and it can be dealt with appropriately as it should be. So thank you. I think in order to even discuss it, you're advancing things that people may not even know what you're talking about. So it's just inappropriate in my mind. Thank you.
Oh, Mayor Comrie?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe everyone who is participating in this meeting, either in person or remotely, has a copy of the agreement. And so they would in fact know what is being discussed. So I'm not in favor of postponing this. We're going to have quite a busy meeting on the 20th, and
well, then we should postpone it to the meeting after that. You can't just, and I don't know whether everyone got a piece of paper when they came in, but they certainly didn't have it on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. It just wasn't in the community. And we just can't act like this. You want to do it, do it, but it's not transparent. It's not the way good governance should go. The clerk knows that you don't not distribute information in the community and then suddenly start to act on it and make decisions on it. It's not right. And it stuns me that we'd even, want to carry on. So I guess we don't care about your opinions or your research, or I got questions over the weekend and from people that didn't have any context to this because they didn't have the agreement. So to err is human. Staff should have put the agreement in. That was the intent. They didn't do it. So let's just not do, anyway, beating a dead horse.
So, Councillor Woods, you seconded this motion. Would you agree with Councillor Lamb for us to remove 11.2 from the meeting for this evening?
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, I think it would be the wise decision. I mean, nobody wants to prolong this, but the fact remains that it wasn't properly circulated in the community. And according to the Municipal Act, unless something is properly circulated, we shouldn't be discussing it.
Councillor McEwen?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was going to comment to the same degree. It wasn't on the agenda, hadn't been circulated. I'm very disappointed that it isn't. It's something that has been so serious and it keeps going around and around and coming back and back. It's something we really have to address this agreement, but it wasn't done properly, in my opinion, also. Well, it wasn't done properly, in my opinion, also. So for those who were listening, I agree with Council Lamb's request to put it off until it gets circulated to the public. Thank you.
Okay,
You
So
need to
do
vote on
we vote on this now? Okay. Okay, so I'll reread the motion. Whereas the members of council have been presented with an agenda for this meeting, be it resolved that the agenda for this meeting be adopted as amended. 11.2, the agreement between WPS Recreation and Cultural Center Joint Municipal Services Board and Municipality of Whitestone be deferred to the September 20th meeting.
and ask that through you, Madam Chair, that the roll be called on this, please.
Do you do that on here then? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor or Mayor Comrie.
You're muted, Mayor Comrie.
Sorry, I tried that once already to unmute. Well, that's fine if this is the will of council. I don't think it's necessary, but
Is that a yay or a nay?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Chair Gorham Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, the agenda has been approved. We have no presentations and delegations this evening. So we're going to move into committee of the whole. That this meeting move into committee of the whole at 6:43 p.m. Can someone make that motion, please? Councillor Woods, seconder. Councillor McEwen. Okay, so we are now in Committee of the Whole, and we'll move to our first planning item. Is Mr. Jackson? Oh, there's Mr. Jackson.
Hello, Madam Chair.
Hello. So we're going to be looking at consent application B41/2022 Tustin. Did you want to summarize that for everyone, please?
Yes, thank you. This is an application by the Tustins who have a large parcel on Highway 520 where they are proposing to create 2 new rural lots which meet the standards of the municipality's zoning bylaw and official plan. And they have had clearance from the Ministry of Transportation, which they've waited for many months. There are some standing water on the property, but interestingly, one of the things that we discovered through our investigation was that these pond-like features were not on the original survey for the municipality, such that they don't exist in law, and that is to say that they aren't recognized as navigable waters. So there really is no concerns with respect to these 2 bodies of water and this application. So, if there are any questions, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to respond.
Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have no problem with the application. I just want to point out, or just so we can correct on the last page of your report, John, just under the map, it says the minimum standard for a rural lot is 1 meter of frontage.
Oh, sorry. It should.
That's supposed to be 100, is it not?
Yeah, there's 2 zeros missing. Good eye. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. I just want to correct the record, but I have
Thank
no
you.
problem with the application. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Oh, Mayor Comrie?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm assuming that there is no suggestion to rezone these. They're going to stay rural. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, because they really, as I think you pointed out, Mr. Jackson, they're really not. They're really not waterfront lots.
No, that's
for
correct.
some purposes. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. So we'll move on to 5.2, consent application B45/2022 Merit.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The application by Gary Merritt involves his lands outside of the plan of subdivision that he had approved back just before the municipality was created. And the retained lands, so to speak, have 2 frontages that are at either end of the lots in the plan of subdivision, so that he has this rather large acreage of about 50 acres, 20 hectares, with 2 separate frontages. On the northeast corner, his neighbors have worked out an arrangement whereby he is going to convey lot additions for these 2 adjacent property owners to increase their size. In one case, it'll add 62 meters of frontage, and in the other case, it'll add some acreage, like 1.25 acres. And that this is an application that does not generate any new lot creation on the lake. And he will have this remaining acreage with a lakefront on the opposite end of the subdivision. So it's the one end is not being touched by the application, and the other end is simply conveying an area to one lot, existing lot adjacent to property, and to add some frontage to another lot. We didn't see any relevant development implications, so it was more or less straightforward lot additions that we often find don't create any kind of concerns. We did receive comments from the Lake Association wondering if there were road implications, and frankly, I don't see any. So I don't see any planning concerns adding on to the historic controversy around these lots as far as this transaction is concerned. So thank you.
Are there any questions from members of council? Not hearing. any.
Were there any formal submissions or emails or anything on this or that we received?
We did receive an email
Okay.
previously, I think Thursday.
Who's we
Thank you. Yes, I received an email and I forwarded it to council
from?
I believe it's from Kathy Duchar. If I've pronounced her name correctly, she is on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Would council like to hear from her? She has her hand raised.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would like to hear because I either didn't open or didn't
Okay.
get the email, I guess.
All right. Kathy, would you like to speak to council?
Yes, thank you for the time. I did send a letter in and I thought it should have been attached to the agenda. And also sent it to the councilors. So I know you get a lot of emails, but we did have some development concerns that I'd like to talk about. We think this is a missed opportunity to help resolve some of the road issues. And the third thing is going to occur to me at a moment, but the development issues we wondered is because of these lots all have water frontage and they're sort of backing onto land that could be backlot development. The concern is over time that such properties as these and many are going to be looked at as potentials for allowing water access to people who are sitting on properties that don't themselves have water access, but are enabled through some access points. I'm told is a challenge in more populated high pressure lakes. So I'm wondering what the council is looking at to help prevent this kind of pressure on our lake by undue backlot development that enables water access through multiple points.
Thank you, Kathy. John, Mr. Jackson, did you want to speak to that question?
Well, this transaction probably would reduce the opportunity for a access point occurring because of the two access points Mr. Merritt has. He's eliminating one by adding it to a neighboring property. So in a way, it's sealing off one end of the property, but there are no backlot development implications by this application. I mean, not to say that something couldn't happen in the future, but that would be assessed based on new lot creation criteria at the time.
And would the council like to comment on the risks of not being prepared for those kinds of developments?
Mayor Comrie, did you wish to speak? You have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to comment that the access point, which is at the south end of the lot there, the diagram on page 15, if you're looking at your package, that is really not a potential access point to the lake. It's if you went out and had a look at it, you'd discover that it really opens onto a kind of a swampy area, which is in behind a couple of islands, and so it's not. I do not believe it's possible to put a dock or anything there. I guess the question would be, well, what difference does that make to the rest of it? These proposed lot additions do not appear to me to create any additional opportunities for development other than what already is there. I guess it begs the question, what, for say some of the other lots in the subdivision, which for example are on the south side of Arbor Vita Island. So they're water access only properties. I don't know where they are, where those lot owners are supposed to, what they're supposed to use to access their properties. I suppose the answer is to public landings, but again, this is something that the municipality inherited from before its existence. It's not, I would argue that it's not, that the whole scenario is not ideal, but it's not, it's not something that the council didn't create it, and council isn't making it worse. If we were to grant these consents, I don't suppose we're aggravating it. For all intents and purposes, there really isn't another. There isn't, even without the two consents, there isn't a potential landing point that I can see on the Merritt property unless he were to make an arrangement with another landowner like Muncie's or somebody else to use the landing that they have.
The other question I had in the letter was, and apologies if this is slightly off tangent, but these issues come up and these are the times to think about them, is the fact that those property owners use the Merritt's road, but it's not an appropriate road, and they are deemed water access lots, and yet they are using the road and don't get a road grant, which for me as running the road association, I didn't realize that until I called recently. So is there a plan of action to rectify the inappropriate designation of these properties as water access only? That would also make a big difference to Whitestone taxes, I understand.
Mr. Jackson, did you want to comment on that?
The only thing I could say about the question is that I believe that those lots that can use the Merritt Road down to Amarak Trail are doing so. So that fact is not changing by this transaction. So I don't feel that there's a consequence in terms of the concern that has historically taken place in that particular context. This application doesn't add or subtract to any of that historical issue.
Understood, but is there a route to correct this misassignment or changing nature of these properties outside of this application?
Well, the only thing I could add, Madam Chair, through you, is that there have been approaches made to work out an arrangement where the owners and users of the road could have a special assessment undertaken, and those steps have been taken, I think maybe on 2 occasions, but that they never got traction, and they may come back for a reconsideration, but that would be initiated by the neighborhood lot owners.
All right. Thank you for everyone's time.
Lynn Brennan, did you wish to speak?
I did. I wondered whether this is an opportunity to correct the 22-year problem with road maintenance, at this opportunity to have it be a condition of the consent, so that there is an official road maintenance agreement with Merritt and with Mr. Hall, for the access, because they definitely are a road access. And I think the road maintenance agreement with all lots as versus household would be appropriate. And that as currently, there is no signage on the road. So it's my understanding that on 2 occasions minimally, emergency vehicles have come down Amarak Trail and approached Merritt's Road, which doesn't have a sign, thinking that that was Amarak continuation or Merritt or Macwa. So we're running into problems with no appropriate signage on his road with all these lots that access the road. So I think it's time that we actually put in a road maintenance condition. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, did you want to comment on that?
I don't know how to address the road maintenance approach by the users of the road. Probably the 2 affected properties on this file either have or could easily have a 911 address. I don't know what that would be, because if they're not recognized as having a legitimate road, it would remain as a water access kind of address. So it makes sense to have the appropriate signage at the intersection of Merritt's Road, or the owner of the property to place an address for emergency services. That's not a illogical request, for sure.
I also, if they're road access, why do they not have emergency numbers?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's sort of an area where I don't share much expertise. I don't know how the 911 addressing program works. I think there generally is an official in the office that deals with that. So you'd have to direct that question to that person or persons.
Thank you, Lynn.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
may I speak?
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe McEwen speaking. Thanks for the comments, folks. The road into Amarak and such was looked at a few years back in terms of the township taking it over, so it's certainly not a new issue. And the road issues go back a long time, and there are a lot of them in there intertwined as we dealt through the Hall properties and such. I think the road issues themselves, though, are outside the parameters really of this consent application. As Mr. Jackson mentioned at the outset, it's in his opinion, and I think in mine also, that it's not really affecting the usages of and the properties themselves along that Merritt property. Private road issues, complicated as they can be, they are private, so there are owners' responsibilities and issues, and I know there are great concerns all the time, and they will always come forward. That's not to preclude, as I think was mentioned there, that some signage or some investigation, maybe on behalf of the municipality, could be undertaken to look at some signs to assist folks in there, so they know which road is which and who owns what. Something that could be investigated as time goes on. Thank you.
Any other comments, Council? Questions? Okay. So we'll move on to 5.3, official plan amendment number 2, update on approval process. Mr. Jackson, did you want to speak to that item?
I certainly can.
You're on mute.
Doesn't look like I'm on mute.
No, he's not.
We can't hear you.
I'll try and speak a little louder. Am I
Try
being
again?
heard? Am I being heard, Madam Chair?
Do you want to try again now?
Okay, check,
There.
test. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Thank you.
We don't know where we put you, but you're back.
Thank you. I worked with staff. It was interesting. I was unaware of, and we weren't really certain that the ministry somewhere in late 2019 gave us site-specific official plan amendment approval authority, which is a good thing. Just means that we can cut down on potential red tape for policy changes. They indicated that they weren't interested in dealing with the approval of this because of this delegation of exemption to receive approvals for anything but 5-year or 10-year official plan reviews. And so that was a good thing. The problem with that was we held our necessary public meetings, but we were prepared to launch a notice of adoption that would funnel OPA number 2 and its policy change directly to the ministry, which would have been sent back to us because we are now exempt from that requirement. So we simply have to re-notify anybody that we think is needing a notice of adoption, because now that process is a municipally contained process. So of all the people that made submissions, we are going to send a new notice of adoption indicating that we now are the approval authority and technically give them the appeal provisions that are attendant with that in accordance with the notice. So it really is just bringing council up to speed as to where this went and why. Presumably, if the policy change is now our jurisdiction and we don't get appeals, it could be in place by, I'm going to say, 20 days after the circulation is given. So this is merely a technical pivot, if you like, that will deal with OPA number 2 and the policy changes related to backlots and trailers. I think that covers it. Michelle was, as I said, she and I co-authored the little memo to council.
Did you have any additions? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, John Jackson covered it. So the intent was really just to advise council what's happening next. There's no decision need to be made. The notice of adoption of the official plan amendment 2 will be posted by the end of the week. We'll circulate to the folks that made submissions to us, and there's the appeal period, and then we simply go forward with the approval if in fact there's no appeal. So it's just simply we've had to turn left on this, and it's good to know that the municipality is the approval authority. That was certainly a surprise to us, but this is just for information. And this is something I suppose we could have done earlier in the summer, but I wanted to bring it to council in September so that there was no surprises as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor McEwen?
Yes, Madam Chair, I discussed this briefly with our CEO today for some clarity. It seems to me, since we've gone through this process for such a long time and there's been input from a lot of people, it's kind of difficult to expect to get the same kind of input and be in touch with those same people. I'm not sure how we can do it comprehensively, accurately, and maybe do it the justice it needs. I hope it doesn't swing a different direction than what our present bylaw. We have a bylaw in place right now accepting and approving these changes and forwarded to the ministry. It almost seems like a redundancy here that we have to go back now and revisit it through the public. I have some difficulty with that. If that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. But I'm just stating that point that I think we're going backwards on this and not forward as we could. Thank you.
I'm not sure we're completely revisiting it. We're just informing them that we're going to be passing the bylaw.
We are, in fact, asking for comments and further, we could get some further, I guess, requests from public. I don't think they can do it as the same process was before, but the potential is now open again to open this up again and revisit. Maybe I could get some comment from Madam Clerk on this as to, can we in fact have this opened up again through this process?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Chair. So this microphone is not- Thank you. I'll get another microphone in a minute. So the intent is work- Okay, test, that's better. So the intent is we're not inviting comments again. This is the exact same notice of adoption that was posted previously. And we're simply reposting the notice of adoption because you're correct, we already have a bylaw to notify that it's the municipality that people, if you want to appeal the bylaw, that it's municipality you appeal to and not MMAH. So we will be sending this notice to people who had already made written and oral submissions, but we're not asking for any further written and oral submissions. People may offer them, but there's no other public meeting. You're right, council has done their due diligence. They passed the bylaw. It's just simply a different notice with the correct information on it. Hopefully that settles your
So
question.
Madam CEO, if we do get an appeal, it will not be received by the municipality, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, if we get an appeal, the appeal comes to the municipality as opposed to MMAH, and we will have to deal with the appeal. People are expected to, there's a fee of $1,100, and the $1,100 is made out to the Ministry of Finance. And so the appeal will go to the land tribunal. But instead of going to MMAH, it's a bit of a technicality here. The appeal comes to the municipality of Whitestone.
Okay, thank you. I just hope we're not dragging it out for no good reason. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
Councillor?
Yeah. Maybe I misunderstood this. I share Councilor McEwen's concern. He and I and the rest of council have been on this for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, I guess at least. We passed something. We have no intention to go back and unpass what we passed. I guess this is trying to, out of abundance of care and whatever, trying to say, you know, if you want to appeal, but maybe you can explain the appeal process, because I thought the appeal was somehow to the land tribunal. Who's it appealing to? And secondly, if we do get someone who says, well, here's my $1,100, I have a problem with backlot development, what happens? I think that's what Councilor McEwen's getting at too.
Right. Fair enough. What I can tell you is that the appeal must be filed with the clerk of the municipality of Whitestone as opposed to MMAH. They set out the reasons for the appeal, the specific part of the proposed official amendment to which the appeal applies, and the fee. From there, I'm going to ask our planner, John Jackson, to tell us what the next steps would be if in fact we received an appeal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the way the process was believed to happen was that we package up the material, send it off to MMA. They actually circulate the decision on the official plan amendment and invite appeals. What we found out was that we, in fact, had the jurisdiction for this kind of an amendment, that we didn't have to take that step. So if we had, they would have been the agency to, if you like, receive appeals. We've now short-circuited that so that anybody that wants to appeal would appeal it to the municipality. So the province is taken out of that process for this kind of amendment, which is good, because if we had to follow the normal provincial track, you'd be months and months and months, whereas here, we're probably only going to be a month away to know whether or not anyone wishes to appeal it. Our decision is made, that's done. There is no more submitting it, but like any planning matter, they act for planning purposes in Ontario, allow someone to take it to the land tribunal. So either way, the province could have received an appeal, or now it's a case where the appeal just gets filed with the municipality. I would say, if anything, we may have shortened it, or the facts known that we now are exempt from sending it off to the province could be a little shorter. We'll be able to deal with this in a month rather than many months.
But
And I
again,
suspect that the province gave us that power because of the red tape involved with these kinds of amendments having to go through Queen's Park.
Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, I still don't, I'm not sure I understand, John. So someone appeals, because you threw in, 30 seconds ago, the land tribunal. What, I mean, again, if they're appealing to council to relitigate this and come and look at their decision again, there'd have to be one heck of a silver bullet of some sort, because we've been down this road a long time. And it would seem to me to be a waste of $1,100 just to say, go look at it again, unless some enormous thing that we missed, which I don't think we have. Or when they appeal and send the money to the Minister of Finance, is there a hearing at the Ontario Land Tribunal over our changes or not? Is it the Land Tribunal, or is it the council that listens to the appeal?
No, it's the land tribunal. If someone were to appeal.
Okay, well,
it's
okay,
that simple.
okay.
Any decision of council on a land use planning matter is subject to an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So this would go to the Land Tribunal.
So all that the appeal to the municipality is a technicality, just a technicality, because the act says that. So, so if someone wants to take our decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal, they can, and then spend their money to try and get this overturned. So, okay, thank you. I think that's clearer now.
Yes.
Mayor Comrie, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I did, please. My assertion is that the opportunity to appeal is gone at this point. It started when we passed the bylaw. It doesn't matter who the recipient of the appeal is. If they had a finite period of time to do it, which has already lapsed. So, I mean, sending notice again and in effect offering people the option to launch an appeal is not, I think, is not appropriate in this case. If somebody wanted to appeal it, they would have appealed it to MMAH, and then it would have, and we would know that there was an appeal already in front of, heading to the tribunal. It's not. There's no reason for them to get another however many days it is to, what is it, 20 days, 30 days, something like that to register an appeal. I don't know why we would open that back up again. I don't see any need to do that. I think we should simply sign it into law.
Mayor Comrie, the CEO just informed me that was our legal advice, was to repost it for the 20 days. Councillor Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's the question that I was getting to. The legal advice. Who did we get the legal advice from? Because that's not in the report here.
Madam CEO? Mr. Jackson?
It's from the individual solicitor is Mark Kemmerer. He works for DeVry Frank, which is a big municipal specialist firm in Toronto. So we asked him, because when we said to the province, somewhat similar query to the mayors was, what do we do now that this matter needs to be bridged. And he offered the advice that you need to give those who made submissions a formal opportunity. And so you really need to add that additional notice period. It is beyond the time, but because of this irregularity that he's given this legal opinion.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Is there, oh, we don't have a microphone over there.
I'll try and talk loud. I'm Scott Nash. I just have a quick question.
Scott, people won't hear you. Test, test.
Hopefully everybody can hear me. So I just had a quick question. All it was over, I think Mr. Jackson said that he'd have to send out a letter to everybody that had a written or oral submission. So I was just wondering how many people that is. I'm sure there was dozens or possibly hundreds of submissions. I'm just wondering, I'm assuming that the municipality would know how many had submitted if it's on council tonight. So that's my question.
Mr. Jackson, do you know how many you're going to have to contact?
I think it's about 40.
Okay. Thank you.
We tracked all that through that 3-year program that Councillor Lamb spoke to.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear that answer, Mr. Nash? Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Jackson.
it's Robert Duda. I'd like to add something.
Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
Yes, the bylaw was passed. The regulation allows for an appeal. A person could have appealed during that period, which is open. All the regulations are online. And to circumvent the regulations and add in an additional appeal process is just circumventing the regulations, just adding more red tape. And it's not acceptable. Council has to follow the law. And the law is that the appeal process occurs after the bylaw is approved, and that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, do you have a comment on that?
I think Mr. Duda expresses it correctly, but here we had this irregularity where we were funneling the process through the wrong channel. And once we found out the province was not the approval authority, they said, whoa, hang on, we gave you the approval authority 2 years ago. They said, you now are in charge of the approval of this, and that process includes an appeal opportunity. And that opportunity hadn't been given yet. So the legal advice was, look, you got to bridge that and give anybody that had an interest the opportunity to appeal it with a new revised notice. And that's where we are. So it was merely to correct an irregularity that otherwise would have been a little bit more compact in the normal sense had we not understood that we didn't have to send this off to the province.
Thanks for your input, but the appeal process goes through the same mechanisms. And so just because you're stating that you're giving or perceiving that the approval authority is the province does not change the appeal process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duda. Any other questions, comments?
I guess my comment is we're at the 1 yard line and maybe a little patience is what we have. I don't disagree with the mayor or Councillor McEwen about do we have to do this, but I have not seen the legal opinion, so I don't know the reasoning behind the legal opinion. And if indeed it was a specialist in the field that advised us this, before I wouldn't do that, I would want to read that legal opinion and understand it myself. So I think we should just have patience. I think as people have said, no one is going to put an appeal in on this thing. they had their chance before, and they'll, as I think John Jackson says, we'll get to the goal line a lot quicker now that we don't have to go through the province. So we should be happy about that. So I think we should just, in my opinion, move on and do what the legal advice is. And because it's always dangerous if you don't say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Okay, so we're going to reconvene into the regular meeting at 7:24. Can I get someone to move that, please? Councillor Lamb and second, Councillor Woods. Okay. So matters arising from committee of the whole. 4.1 consent application B41/2022 Tustin. Whereas John Jackson Planner Inc. has prepared a report for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B41/2022 Tustin and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report as information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions: that payment of a parkland dedication fee be made in accordance with the current municipal fees and charges bylaw, that the new lots receive 911 addressing from the municipality, that payment of all applicable planning fees be made to the municipality of Whitestone. Can I get a mover on that, please? Councillor Lamb, and a seconder, please.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Oh, we'll get you in there. Miss Mayor Comrie. Anyone opposed to this? Or should we do a recorded vote? Okay.
Test. Mayor Comrie,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gore Matthews.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, 4.2 consent application B45/2022 merit. Whereas John Jackson Planner Inc. has prepared a report for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B45/2022 merit and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report as information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant's solicitor confirms in writing that the transferred lands merge in title with the benefiting lands, and that payment of all applicable planning fees be made to the municipality of Whitestone. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Woods, and a seconder. Councillor McEwen. Can we get a recorded vote, or do you need comments?
Just
Okay. No. Okay. Do we have a vote then recorded, please, Madam Clerk?
You may. Mayor Comrie,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gore Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
.3 official plan amendment number 2, update on approval process. Memo prepared by Michelle Hendry, CAO Clerk, and John Jackson, Planner, dated September 6, 2022, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive the memorandum, official plan amendment number 2, update on approval process for information. Can I get a mover on that, please? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah.
And a seconder? Councillor McEwen. Do you want a recorded vote on this as well?
Up to you.
May as well.
Thank you. Mayor Comrie,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gore Matthews.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Okay, so we don't have a public meeting tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda. So our consent agenda consists of special council meeting minutes for Thursday, July 28th, and regular council meeting minutes for Tuesday, August 2nd, and our unfinished business. So the resolution is, whereas the Council of Municipality of Whitestone has received the consent agenda consisting of 7.1 council and committee meeting minutes, and 7.2 unfinished business, attachment A to the agenda. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby approve the regular council meeting minutes of August 2nd, 2022, and the special council meeting minutes of July 28th, 2022, and receives for information all other items contained in the consent agenda dated September 6th, 2022. Could I please get a mover for that? Councillor McEwen, a seconder. Councillor Lamb. Was there any discussion? Councillor McEwen?
Just a comment, Madam Chair. The attachment A, which is the unfinished business, it's a bit more comprehensive. It runs back through pretty much half a year or so. So it's appreciated. Someone put a fair bit of effort into that. Thank you.
Yes, it was a good summary of everything that we've discussed and captured. You did a good job of that, Madam CEO. Thank you. Anyone opposed to receiving these minutes? Approving them? I hear none. It's carried. So then I don't have to do that one. No, okay. Okay, we'll move on to accounts payable. So accounts payable 8.1, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone received for information accounts payable listing in the amount of $470,566.93 for the period ending August 31st, 2022. May I get a mover on that, please? Councillor Woods, seconder.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Comrie. Any comments or questions on any of the items? Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, I have a couple. Page 46 out of 119, or page 4 of the actual accounts payable. Lakeside Limited line painting. I'm not questioning the amount, but I wondered whether they had done York Street, because I brought up several times that people wanted some lines painted on York Street, and there was going to be an accident there at some point, and we were just waiting on when the line painters were available. So looks like they were available. Hopefully it was done.
Madam CEO?
Yes, yes, York Street was painted probably over a month ago. And it actually
in
looks,
there, never noticed.
it actually looks pretty good. So it's something that can continue to be done. The other thing that we did this year that was really was unexpected, but we decided to do it anyway, is paint the steps from the top of the community center going down. They've always been yellow, but the paint was fading, so we had them come back and paint those.
Okay.
But yes, York Street is done. It looks
Perfect,
great.
thank you. The second one is just sort of an interest. The staff appreciation dinner was really good. And it was put on by the Duck Rock, and the whole evening for those people that were there was a good evening, and we certainly recognized all the volunteers in the community. But then again, looking at the bill for dinner, and it sort of surprised me. It said $2,700, or there's 3,000, another 3,000, cost us $6,000. And as far as I know, there was only about 100 people there, or 110 or something. That's like 55 or 60 bucks a plate. So that's really expensive for maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm out of touch, but the roast beef was good, I guess, if you had roast beef. But is that the total cost? And are we far off? What was it a plate?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead,
Through you.
Nancy.
There was meals purchased for 115 people. You're correct. Not everybody showed up, but that was the RSVPs that we received, and actually a few more after that. And it did add up to about $45 a plate. It was certainly unexpected on our part, and we worked with the supplier to bring the price down because it was a little bit higher than that from the start. But the cost of groceries and vegetables and the meat, and they really did try to be fair to us. So it was definitely delicious. I had the roast beef as well, but it was an expensive meal.
Yeah, I don't want to take away
Yeah.
from the Duck
No.
Rock. They did a great job of feeding everyone, and the food was great, and the evening was great. So I don't know, just get stunned a little bit at 45 or 50 bucks or whatever it was a plate. Thank
Yeah,
you.
if I may, Madam Chair, the other thing I'd like to add that I think council would like to know is that at the end of the evening, there was food left over. And so between Councillor Gore Matthews and Deborah Comrie and a couple of other local residents, they found a home for the food within the
Good.
community, people that were in need. And I believe 5 or 6 families benefited from that.
Yes, I delivered to 5 families on
Perfect.
my way home that evening.
So there wasn't a speck of rice left.
There you go. Thank you.
Any other
I'm-
questions?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple. Page 49. 707 GF Preston Sales and Service Supplies. It says ditching goods and services supplies. Is this the excavator rental for that?
Madam CEO?
I believe our Public Works Manager is online, so I will ask him to answer that question. You may have to repeat it. We didn't hear you very well. Maybe speak into your microphone.
Item 707 GF Preston Sales and Service. It says ditching goods and services supplies, $6,746.70 plus tax.
Mr. Creaser, are you able to answer that question? If you could unmute.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. That is correct. That is for the rental of the excavator.
Thank you. Do you have some more, Councillor Woods?
I do. Just one comment there. Can we
Yeah.
not say that it was excavator rental on there? Rather than just ditching services? Would that make sense?
Yep, certainly. We could ask our AP person to make note of that next time.
I think I had one more. Page 55, item 737, Northern Business Solutions, the wide scanner. Total was $17,204.25. I'm assuming that's the new scanner we had to buy for the big, large form plans for the building department.
Yep, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that is correct.
We have that now and we're using it. Everybody knows how to use it.
Not everybody, but certainly enough people in the office. If you had to scan a large map or a large set of drawings, we have trained people.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Not sure if oh, wait a minute. No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Any other comments? Okay. Everyone in favor of passing these? Okay, so we're going to move on to staff reports. So the first one is 9.1, notice of proposed amendment to bylaw number 40-2012 as amended in respect of the inaugural meeting of a new council. Madam CEO, would you like to comment on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will do that. The report is self-explanatory, but I will walk you through it. We have a current procedure bylaw that contemplated that the inaugural meeting of council would be in December. And as of 2022, the new term of council starts on November 15th. So it makes sense that we would move up that inaugural meeting to November 15th, which happens to be a regular council meeting, and we will amend the schedule to indicate its inaugural meeting if council is agreeable. The challenge with the procedure bylaw is that any major changes to the bylaw have to be approved and have to be brought forward as a notice and then approved at a subsequent council meeting. So this is fairly important. So basically what I'm asking council to do is approve that the first meeting of the newly elected council will be on November 15th, as opposed to the first meeting in December. And that will bring the new council on a little bit sooner, but we have to amend the bylaw, and we can do that amendment on the 20th, because by receiving this report for information, that gives notice to the public that that amendment is contemplated.
Okay, I'm just going to read the resolution and then we can take comments on that. So 9.1, report admin 2022-12, notice of proposed amendment to bylaw number 40-2012 as amended in respect of the inaugural meeting of a new council, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report admin 2022-12, notice of proposed amendment to procedural bylaw number 40-2012 as amended in respect of the inaugural meeting of a new council for information purposes, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby give notice per section 22-1 of bylaw number 40-2012 as amended of the following proposed amendment, section 3.1 be revised to read: the first meeting of the newly elected or acclaimed council after regular election shall be held on a date and time as determined by the mayor-elect and the clerk. At the first meeting, the clerk shall administer the declarations of office and oaths of allegiance and the code of conduct for all members. No business shall be conducted at the first meeting until the declarations of office and oaths of allegiance and code of conduct have been administered to all members, and that by an amending bylaw in support of the amendment to section 3.1 be brought forward to the September 20th, 2022 regular council meeting for consideration. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Woods. May I get a seconder? Councillor Lamb. Discussion. Anyone opposed to this motion? I'm seeing none, so it's carried. Yeah. Okay, so 9.2. This report PW 2022-09, boat launches and future options for Whitestone Lake and Lorimer Lake. Mr. Creaser, did you want to speak to your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We were I was asked to look into some of the options and information on the boat launches for both Whitestone Lake and Lorimer Lake. And this report does sum up the information that was gathered. And we started with looking at Whitestone Lake. And Whitestone Lake lists here the launches that are available. Starting with the private launch on Shirley Road. This launch we did hear about from a previous council meeting. It is a private launch. It is posted as a private launch. There's a sign posted there with information to contact a couple individuals there. And then those people will give information on the opportunity to use the launch for a modest fee. So that is available to the public if they do contact the people responsible for the launch. And those people are the Meadow Cove people. There's also a private launch at the marina, and that's located right in downtown Dunchurch. And that is also available to be used for the public through a fee. That's more in the center of the lake, I would say. Farley's Road, that launch is owned by the municipality, was inherited. The municipality was deemed to take it over. It does serve 12 water access properties. These 12 water access properties have deeded access to the property, and there's a permit program for them. They pay for a modest fee and they get a permit and they're allowed to park there. The municipality does a little bit of maintenance every year to the launch, and it's a decent launch. That's also located up, I believe, in Lost Bay. Church Street is located right in the center of Dunchurch as well. That's the boat launch that we have right by our office. That launch is open to the public, and it has the short-term boat docking as well located there. There is limited parking. It is rather popular on the weekends, but it does provide good access to the lake as well. There really is no further options on that lake that were found, but at this point it's well served. I believe Whitestone Lake is pretty well served with boat launches and access to the public. Lorimer Lake was the next lake that we were to look at.
Can we ask questions on Whitestone before we get to Lorimer, or?
Sorry, Mr. Creaser, can you take a few questions regarding Whitestone Lake before
Absolutely.
we move on to Lorimer Lake?
Done.
Mr. Creaser?
Yes, sorry, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. Our official plan somewhere in there talks about finding additional launching points, et cetera, at the north end of Whitestone Lake, and that we're going to make endeavors to do that and whatever. So that is in our official plan. I guess the comment is that the people from did the people from North Meadow Cove Road, who own the place on Shirley, were they notified that this report was coming tonight? Because they're the ones that, brought this forward, et cetera. Or I made a call this afternoon. I haven't heard back to try and get a hold of the president over there, Jack Hodson, but he never called me back. But were they informed that we were talking about access points on Whitestone tonight?
Not specifically, no. Previous conversations, they did let me know that their intentions were to move ahead with operating it themselves. They were getting insurance and they were allowing the public to use it for a modest fee. I understand that was moving forward. So the public did have access at that point to that.
Because I know when they initially came forward, they were looking for us to enter into some form of agreement that would formalize that more, where we wouldn't take over ownership of that, but maybe we would run it or put another dock out or something. So I guess all these things are for the next council to kind of deal with in terms of, you know, we're receiving this tonight for information, but I want to make sure that maybe they assumed that we were going to find other access points on Whitestone Lake. So I just want to make sure that we just don't conclude that they want to run that or continue to run it privately. I know they were concerned about insurance. So I want to make sure that we don't lose them in the foray here. So when we talk about Whitestone, we say there's no additional, first of all, let me go back a bit. I never knew the people on Farley's had deeded access. That's very interesting. I didn't know that before I read this report. And your report is good, by the way, David. Thank you. So that explains why they get permits and park there and whatever. I always wondered why they got special kind of treatment. So that addresses that. But when you say additional boat launches, that there are none, or there's no prospects or whatever, you may be right. But I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, there was a road allowance very, very close to the end of Farley's Road, where the other one is, that there is a road allowance that goes right to the lake. In fact, there's a person on there that has a dock there with our permission, and they have a big home, and they wanted to buy, I don't know, 110 feet of lakefront or something right in front of their place. So there is a road allowance that comes off of, there's a little side road on two shot.
Goes both ways.
Both ways, I don't know what that means. Anyway, there is a road allowance over there that goes right down to the lake.
That's right.
And why would that not be looked at, or was it looked at? And why would, if so, why was it discounted as not an opportunity for the future? Because I know ultimately council was very reluctant to get rid of access points. Just because of what you just said, there are very little of them. So why would we sell ours off? So what about that access? Why was that not in the report, or why is that not a good place to look to in the future? Do you know the one I'm talking about, Mr.
Yes, I am familiar with it. There is the option to move, to do something with that one. There is, once we looked at, or I looked at all the different options here on the lake, there was not, I didn't put additional resources into this location. There is options, the three options that we did speak of for the public. So I did not. There is, we could look at that one as well going forward. I just didn't know what the appetite was for.
Well, I think the appetite is in our official plan, unless we change it. We state that we're going to look for additional access points at the north end of the lake. And so I just, maybe it was overlooked, but that is there. And I'm not suggesting we go develop it, but maybe a new council might want to find out what the cost to do that is. I know that Councillor Woods and I were over there, and he walked it right from the road all the way in. I didn't, and I probably tripped 3 times, but it seemed pretty level to me. And so I think it's a possibility. And if it's the only one that's really available over there, you've got people, down Long Arm Bay who have island cottages, etc. And I know I've heard from 1 or 2 of them in the past about parking. So anyway, I don't want to discount that one. So I'm just surprised that one wasn't kind of put in your report. The other thing about down here at the Church Street here, we of course are in the process of buying the property directly to my right from the owner, and we've just recently purchased the Twist property, which ensures our viability and ability to expand over the next 50 or 100 years, in my opinion, but that should relieve any parking issues that eventually that we'll have here in the village. There's lots of room to develop parking and whatever. So I don't think you'll have the problem that you may have right now in terms of things going in and out. And of course, we put the second dock in here, which I've been down several times, and a lot of people use that. And the beach area is wonderful. So that's, I guess, the end of my comments on Whitestone Lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Councillor Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pretty much had some of the same comments and questions Councillor Lamb had, except I've always had one. Barley's Road, the 12 water access properties that are deeded to it, can anybody else buy a permit down there to use that launch? Or is it only for those lots?
Madam CEO?
Thank you. Just a little history that will help me answer that question. The 12, or does it say 12 lots here?
Yes.
I actually think there might be 13, but let's assume there's 12. The number isn't important in this conversation. They were developed in about 1967, and the lot where they have deeded access was owned by a company called Tower Investments. And at some point, I think around 2005, the guardian trust of the province transferred that money to the municipality. And I'm sure it wasn't as simple as that. I'm sure there were conversations and letters that happened. There may have been a bankruptcy, we don't know. But that lot was then vested in the municipality of Whitestone, where previously it was just a private piece of property where those 12 or 13 water access lots had deeded access, and that's how they were developed. So the municipality of Whitestone has, since 2005, carried on the intent of that piece of property and given parking permits to the owners of those lots as well as guests. They're permitted to have a number of guest permits as well. We've recently had a number of people that have been wanting to buy parking permits for that lot, and we've denied them at this point because the municipality will have to think about just how much parking is available, how much is available for trailers. And I would think that it could be a watershed of asks, because there's been asks over the last 4 years, but there's been 2 recently that people that have been very concerned about not being able to have access through that property. So that may come to council as a discussion item in the next month or so, because I believe they're going to write a letter to council. But that's the history of that piece of property, where very specific lots have deeded access to use it as a launching spot and parking area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Oh, Mayor Comrie, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the last couple of questions have kind of segue into a point that I wanted to make. I guess what I thought was going to happen, and I'm not criticizing what our manager of public works has done in putting together this report in any way, but part of the puzzle, it seems to me, is that somehow or other we need to have an assessment of what the demand is for parking. I mean, what we've looked at is the supply side, but the demand for additional boat launching and parking and so on is pretty anecdotal. And of course, if part of any lake plan, and I am assuming that we are going to end up doing lake plans in the next term of council. Part of any lake plan is to take a look at how many people there are who have roads and have actual road access to their individual properties, and Whitestone Lake is actually pretty good in that regard compared to some of our other lakes, but the really important piece of the puzzle is how many people don't have road access and are relying on public landings to get their boats in and out of the water. 'Cause they might have a driveway, but not a boat launch, and how many people are relying on, these, our boat launches and so on, where they actually need parking for their trailers, their boats, their guests, etc. And those are very important numbers when you take a look at what. So my point is simply this: we still, I think, we still really need to do some work on this. And I mean, it's great to have an idea of what places might be turned into, future boat launches and future parking areas. But we need to, we also need to know, well, what is the demand likely to be? What's the demand right now? What is it likely to be as we go forward?
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. Any other comments? Mr. Creaser, do you want to move on to Lorimer Lake?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Lorimer Lake was reviewed alongside McDougall, and we did look at the year-round road access points. We did include Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry lands. We did visit each site, located property bars to the best we could. We did actually pretty well locating property bars and assess the feasibility for each location. There was not one that was remotely feasible to put a boat launch in. A great deal of them had steep grades, going both directions, down and up, and then back down again, without any possibility of putting in a boat. There is the currently parking area and a canoe launch that's located on the McDougall side. There is, from what I understand, there's near Tim Hortons camp, including Tim Hortons camp, there is a couple private little slips that go in. But as far as at the public end, there is just the Swords Road allowance that's available alongside Lorimer Lake Lodge or Resort, as they call themselves. They have the resort, or Lorimer Lake, they have done quite a bit of improvements to the area. They have the same amount of boat slips they had before, but they have new docks. They have larger parking areas, and they are fully booked, and they are looking to expand if they could. And they have installed a gate at the end of their property, right on the property line. And that's to help control, I'm told, to help control guests. They're open to the public. They only ask that people be courteous and polite. And the option is that we are looking at is adjacent to that, and that is the small allowance adjacent to the road. And that allowance is currently being used by one of the island properties. I believe there's 3 cottages on that island property, and that is been in use for by looks of it for many years. We did receive some background letters that date back to 1966 from the municipality, giving permission to do some work on the allowance for a parking area. That property is currently being used for parking area, and there's a small, modest dock system that's quite rickety. It's not many people would trust it to go out on it, but at the end of that dock, there appears to be enough depth to get a boat launch and a draft in there. So we're looking at anywhere over 30 inches of water. If we did go out ourselves, we'd probably have to go a little further, but that is the only option that I could see. I've talked to many people on the lake, including McDougall, and no one had a better option than there. At the end result is we have a permit that would allow us to move forward to install a boat launch there, do a little bit of infilling at the lake, the end of the road allowance, and that would get us out in the water, a platform to get out in the water, and then we would have to look at putting maybe a dock in, but it's going to put us out maybe 60 feet just to get the depth out there as well. There is costs involved in doing this work. There's also a cottage that would need to be relocated that is owned by Lorimer Lake Resort that is on the property. There is the people that are currently using it. They would have to have some notice of some changes also be provided, and there would be cost to put it in. So to put it in, we're looking at an estimated budget of $55,000 to put the boat launch in, $15,000 to put a parking area on the opposite side of the road, and then to put a 50-foot dock would be about another $25,000. These are rough estimates to get us access to the lake there, and that would be adjacent to Lorimer Lake Resort as well. Those are just the nuts and bolts of what's going on there, costs and opportunities there. I do not have any good information of the demand from the other municipalities, from the other McDougall or McKellar, how many properties that would also be looking to use our boat launch as well, on top of the people we have in our municipality. I believe I'm ready for questions if there are questions.
Thank you, Mr. Creaser. Any questions regarding this Lorimer Lake? Oh, Mayor Comrie?
Well, once again, I think it's more a question than a comment, Madam Chair, but I mean, it's more a comment than a question, what I'm trying to say. We did, when the whole issue of Lorimer Lake access came up some time ago, we did a little survey of people to try to understand how many this involved the Lake Association there, to try and figure out how many people relied on Lorimer Lake Lodge or some other location for landing and what kind of services they needed and so on. And I guess my comment simply is that the little bit of extra possible access at the beside Lorimer Lake Lodge off Sorts Road that Mr. Creaser is talking about is not going to, in my judgment, is not going to serve the existing demand that's already there. And the biggest problem with it is not so much that you couldn't make an actual launch and have a dock and so on, although it would have to go out a long way, as you heard, but there just isn't parking there, and the terrain is such that you can't really do much to get the kind of parking that you need. So people need places to park their vehicles, and they need places to park their boat trailers, and the number of folks that would end up relying on that, this is not, in my estimation, gonna cut it. So I guess what I'm saying is I think we still have a problem here. You know, and again, it's part of it depends really on how much on whether the lodge continues to accommodate the folks that have used it historically, and whether that, you know, I mean, I guess so long as they don't, it's not a crisis, so long as they don't you know, decide that that they need their docking and parking facilities for their own guests or whatever else, and start restricting use of the of people on the lake, but if that happens, there's going to be a problem with people who have water access only properties in the Whitestone portion of Lorimer Lake. Forget access by the public at large in general, for all intents and purposes. And this is true of the McDougall side. There really is not a public access point to Lorimer Lake in either municipality. And I don't sense that that's a problem, that McDougall thinks that that's a problem at this stage of the game, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's something that council would have to consider down the road, but I guess what I'm saying is that I anticipate that we will continue to have representation from folks with water access properties on Lorimer Lake, that they need a solution, and I'm not convinced that just adding this little bit on Swords Road is gonna satisfy the demand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been down and I've looked at this area, and to me, we're gonna have a real hard go putting a launch in there. Like, we'd be doing a lot of dredging, and as far as I know, that's all an environmentally protected area. I know the outcry that we all heard when someone messed around with the EP area on the resort, and we're really considering doing the same kind of thing to the EPA area right next to it, especially as Mayor Comrie said, it's not really sufficient enough to accommodate everybody. Could we not sit down and try and work with the local business owner and try and come up with an arrangement for everybody that's water access on the lake to be allowed to use their launch? If we're looking at spending $100,000 towards that, couldn't we look at giving him some money to get everybody on the lake access through his property, regardless of whether or not it's deeded to them, but we have something written, we pay them, and they use that access from now on? Would that not make more sense, rather than disturb a more environmentally protected shoreline on a lake that everybody's always upset about when people are trying to do work on?
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm pretty familiar with that area. I've accessed that lake for a lot of years. And we used to put small boats in on that very allowance we're referring to at the end of Lorimer Lake Road with 4x4s back in my hydro days. It's doable if it was fixed up a bit for access off and on the lake for small craft, to think of it as a fix for people accessing the lake, putting in large boats for a lot of the larger situations. I think there's more to be looked at than that landing. There is property, if you go in past that landing, it's private, of course, green zone, tuck zone, considerable amount of shoreline in there. And I'm sure that the folks on Lorimer Lake, they don't want to get into major purchases of shoreline at today's prices, but it may come down to that someday. And those same people own considerable land behind the road allowance. It's sort of like backlot development in a sense. Try to leave that word out of it tonight. But they do have property that could be used for extensive parking if purchasing and some kind of agreements could be made with them. The resort, it's been an off again, on again thing for, I can go back 40 years. Change owners, change rules. Remember Hydro and Bell got locked right out of there one time, and they had to have some kind of an injunction to gain access to the lake through that resort when there were major hydro issues on the lake. It's certainly not a new situation, and it's just exacerbated by the purchasers, new owners and such, and their new interests and, let's say, demands also, I guess. But it's a big one that I think will require some significant involvement between the cottage association, the people who access their cottages by water, and in conjunction with us, municipality, moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to add. I agree with all the comments that have been made. The ask from the, I thought it was somehow, the number was 18 or something like that. Access lots, excuse me. The ask of that group, of course, was that we find a spot for them and we develop that spot, put a dock in and have parking for them alone. And without any deeded access, just that's where they get to exclusively use it. And I think that's where it starts to get into some problems because they're public lakes and public land, and you can't just say, you know, you go in and you don't. That's not on. I'm all for the public being able to take their tin boat and put it in any public lake. That's what they are. They're public, and so I'm looking for all those opportunities. So I'm beginning to believe, but what I'm hearing tonight that and reading that, of course, what we thought was a road allowance that might work probably won't work, because at best what we'll get is you got to take your boat out 60 feet in order to get 4 feet of water, and you got to get down there, and all you can do is temporarily park your car there. So that isn't what they're asking for. So even if we invested the $100,000 or whatever it would cost, I don't think we're going to achieve anything, and or minimal benefit, I guess. So maybe we have to look at other opportunities. I don't know. Were there, Mr. Creaser, was there anything when you talked to McDougall, there was no possibilities for any access on their end of things, or you know, what, no other options there, eh?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try to answer that the best I can. We did go through every property that was available. Every year-round road. We did look at some of the summer road ones as well. When I say some, we did look at them. The problem with the summer roads is largely the same. The very nature of the grade was just too steep. The roads themselves would have to be brought up so you could get be able to pass boat and trailer, like truck, the trailer combinations, which they were not suitable. So just one hurdle after the other just to get nothing better than Swords Road. There was absolutely nothing that they had. There is some private property owners that that I'm told have some very small launches, but really nothing to speak of that would serve the needs. I understand that the Lorimer Lake Resort is looking to expand, put in more parking and more boat slips, but I can't speak to what's actually going to happen with no guarantees on that end. So nothing better than Swords Road we came up with, and that's visiting every property, looking for property stakes, which we did a very good job with. Nothing better than Swords Road Swords Road allowance. A private property would likely be the best option, but as Councilor McEwen indicated, today's prices for property are not small. So we don't have any good solutions at this point to solve the problem.
But also at this point, is it fair to say that other than the public accessing it to go in and fish or whatever, that we really don't have much of a problem, in the sense that the current owner of the lodge isn't kicking people out, right? Isn't that fair to say? And your report seems to indicate that he's going to expand things, and so things from that standpoint seem to be more positive than negative. So I guess again, is there a problem here? And you know, maybe it can't be addressed, or as Councilor Wood says, you've got to come up with some unique out of the box solution to it. But I hear what they're saying, but I don't know. It's
so as it stands now, what's changed from the previous council meeting where we had a report is there's been new docks put in at Lorimer Lake Resort. There has been improved parking area, larger parking area. The access to the lake is improved. Service levels have improved. All these people that had access before and boat slips now have new places to park and bigger parking areas. They have better services than they had before. There's been more money and investment put into these and agreements made. I have not heard any negative comments from the public regarding this, the new service levels. I understand the prices have gone up quite a bit to reflect the improvements, but I haven't heard that there is anybody's being left out with the services at the marina services at Lorimer Lake. I haven't heard of anybody being left out.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, good evening. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, so you're speaking to CJ Jansen, and thank you for the opportunity. I represent Lorimer Lake Resort, and I've listened to all the comments made and so forth and followed through. I can say that the suggestion Councillor Woods made, and we will be up to discussions. It's not our intention to lock anybody out, and we haven't done so. We have put a lot of money into the resort to update it and upgrade it and put it into where we can attract higher end clients and just in principle increase the services that we offer. Just a couple of points that I would like to point out on behalf of the Lorimer Lake Resort is that firstly, the cottage that was mentioned that is infringing, while when we purchased the property, we had no indication that any of our cottages or anything was infringing on neighboring properties. And this will become a contentious point to have that removed. And it's not going to be removed out of choice. So my second point I would like to just make is that the report states that we are fully booked and we can provide proof that this is incorrect. We were just over 50% utilized for this season. So we do have space for more boats, more there are open slips available. And then should there be a need for the docks to be increased, we have the capacity to increase, and any increases would be done or could be done at our cost, or cost saving to the municipality. Then the third point I would like to make is Lorimer Lake have a controlled access gate with free access to any emergency service provider. By prior agreement, we offer parking to contractors and allow boats to be launched by third parties. So any clients that needs the marinas from elsewhere to deliver their boats, and so that's being allowed. So there's no restrictions. Based upon records we've got for this current season, there were about 10 to 15 additional boat launches done over and above our seasonal clients. So these numbers does not really validate the expense of nearly $100,000 in our opinion. The fourth point is the wind continuously blow towards that area of the bay, and the currents push sand up to that area. So beside the water level dropping, you will also have quite a continuous dredging that needs to be done throughout the season to actually keep the boats or be able to reach there. So that's an additional cost that you may have to think about and look into. Then the fifth point we've got is with a budget allowance of nearly $100,000 estimated, while the current entity is underutilized both in boat slip, launch, and parking facility, is we feel that once work starts, it's easy to overshoot budgets. The question is, will this money be well spent if we have an existing facility, and we're willing to negotiate. Then just the 6th point that we have is on oceans and fisheries and the approvals for that. Now that is also one of the councillors brought it up, and I agree with them. Knowing the Whitestone residents and the drive to preserve environment, it is staggering to hear that the docks are considered on an EP zoned area. This is a prime fishery spawning area. A 50-foot boat dock, a launch, and the work to be done will definitely have an impact on this. So just in general, Lorimer Lake Resort Management will not support this proposal, and we don't think it's the best idea. We're there to work together towards a solution, and we've not been excluding anybody from using our facilities.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Jansen. Any other comments from council? Okay, so I have a resolution to read, and thank you, Mr. Creaser, for that report. Report PW 2022-09 boat launches and future options for Whitestone Lake and Lorimer Lake. That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report PW 2022-09 for boat launches and future options for Whitestone Lake and Lorimer Lake for information. Can someone move that we receive this report? Councillor Woods, seconder. Councillor Lamb, everyone in favor? Okay, we're going to move on to report 9.3, which is a review of current boat launches in the municipality of Whitestone. Mr. Creaser, would you like to comment on your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This report was collected and is presented to council for information regarding the inspections and results of the inspections, and listing off the recent work that was completed at each launch. If I may go through each launch, Beach Road boat launch on Shawanga Lake is located just off Lorimer Lake Road on the north side, which provides access to Shawanga Lake. There is no dock located at this launch. There's a modest gravel launch that has a fairly gradual entry into the lake. There is reasonably good access for a boat trailer to turn around. There's improved parking for trailers and vehicles as well. From what I've seen there at each of my visits, it's well organized. There's parking that's utilized on the top side of the parking area and along Beach Road as well. People are polite and happy with the improvements that have occurred there. It's clean and tidy. And at this time, I've got no plans for any further maintenance or improvements. There's been no request made to me personally for any additional work there beyond the current circumstances. Should I go through launch by launch or take questions after each launch, Madam Chair?
Maybe we can just take questions from council with regards to any questions they have about the report, just to save time, because I'm sure they've had an opportunity to read about each launch. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First question I have, I've had this for years, and I know a lot of the people out the 520 have had this for years because I've been told about it since I came here. Why do we not ever talk about Parker Bay, and how did we ever stop using that launch area?
Thank you. If I may, I don't know if I have enough good information to be clear on that.
Mr. Creaser, I think our CAO clerk has some information about that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually don't have information, but I know Mayor Comrie does. He was aware of what happened with Parker Bay, and it was a decision of a previous council. And perhaps he would like to step in and provide that information. He actually shared it with me just today, but he does know more about it than I do.
Mayor Comrie?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try to just summarize it briefly, but that landing was the original main landing for Wawashkesh back in the 1940s, early 50s, before the Wawashkesh Road existed. People like us and the Bennetts and so on used to use that as that's how we got to our properties, and that's how people got to the lodge. It was, I believe, on a municipal road allowance, and a previous Whitestone council, I'd have to look up the exact date of it, but it was certainly before my time, and you know, I'm going to say somewhere in the first 10 years of the municipality's existence, had a request from the owner of the property, the cottage property that was beside it, to close it and convey it to him, and council agreed to do that. Thinking, I guess, that there were other boat launches by that point in time. You know, Bennett's Landing was operational, and maybe even Indian Narrows at that point. So, and there were other places, Ald's Landing, Harrison's Landing was used as a landing sort of by that time too. So I guess council thought that there was lots of other options, and they closed it. However, as I think I mentioned earlier this evening, there was a thought that like some of the subdivisions that were approved back before the municipality existed, the assertion was that they were going to use, and these were approved by Plans and Administration Branch of MMAH out of Queens Park. The municipality didn't exist, but the assertion was that they would use Parker Bay Landing, and the Parker Bay Landing disappeared, and so so they don't. And that Merritt subdivision that we talked about earlier was an example of that. That was the thought. So. I mean, I suppose you could ask in hindsight, was it a mistake? I don't know. That's but anyway, it's not available. It's now somebody's private property, and they use it as their own, you know, their own dock and so on for their own cottage, right? So anyway,
It's definitely privately owned. Can we get someone to investigate that for us? Search the title on that, please.
Yes, we'll investigate that, and I'll get back to council.
Thank you. I think it's a point that a lot of older locals, and when I say older, I mean people in their 80s, late 80s, out that end of the municipality.
Thanks.
They've always had a bone of contention about what happened with Parker Bay. And to me, some of the properties on Wawashkesh there that have to drive all the way around to Bennett's Landing to launch their boat and then come all the way back down, it could be a viable option for people to get their boats in closer to their cottage. I think it's worth looking at. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I definitely think it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I guess a comment and maybe a question on Manson Lake. There is a road allowance shared by McKellar and Whitestone, and it's noted in here. I'd hate to see that drop off the list of boat launch locations. It's the only access to Manson Lake. by way of any type of road allowance. I know it's very, very sparsely or seldom used. Some people do drag car tops or small canoes, kayaks, things like that, mud up to their ankles and maybe their knees, but they still utilize it to a certain extent, and it's been used moderately for as long as I can remember. My family's from back in that area. So just a question, can it be kept on the list for future references? It may become useful for even safety reasons for service access to the lake at some point in time. The other comment I have, and maybe a question, have there been concerns and issues with the Church Street boat launch? I've heard people concerned about getting their boat out of the lake because the water's low, the concrete only goes so far down, and the municipality dumped in some coarse gravel, rockish type stuff in there. Is there a plan to do some future, maybe work on that ramp to improve it? It's probably the greatest use launch we've got in the municipality, besides maybe a couple back at Wawashkash. But just curious, is there a concern with that launch, and should it be worked on somewhat?
Through you, Madam Chair. To answer your question, this week, there is absolutely a plan to do that. There's also a plan to repair the 2-inch line for the fire hydrant that got damaged by a boat trailer. We're going to repair that and see if we can protect that better as well. We're going to do both those things this week, and we are aware of those concerns. The water is low right now, and you are absolutely right. There is gravel there, and there is work that needs to be done to improve the access there. And I don't think it's a difficult task to improve that.
Okay, thank you. I think the comments came from folks with possible 2-wheel drives or all-wheel drive vehicles pulling just modest-sized boats out. And a couple slipped back past the concrete to get the boat deep enough in the water. And there have been some issues and concerns. So thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Any other comments? Councillor Woods?
Just one about Gooseneck. No real serious complaint issues. Everybody's happy with the upgrades that we've made there, but a few people called me and said that same kind of thing Councillor McEwen just mentioned, but they've been having problems getting their boats out. I guess when we put the gravel in, there's a little bit of a drop off there. I was just wondering if someone could maybe take a look at that for us.
Mr. Creaser, did you catch that comment?
Yes, so through you, Madam Chair. I have that. We will have that looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. As you know, invasive species is a very big concern, and boat launches are an area as a vector that can bring invasive species from one body of water to the next. And I know that now that you're considering upgrading your facilities, and part of capability is to be able to manage that. And I would suggest you start having some consideration for providing some way of cleaning boats, either coming in or coming out. Many municipalities have done that to try to help control invasive species. We're not certainly immune in this community to invasive aquatic species, and there should be some consideration in that direction. Thank you. Did I say my name to begin with?
No.
Dennis Morrison, concerned citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I know we did install the signs at all the boat launches about the cleaning your boats when you remove them, the clean, dry procedures. And at one council meeting, we did discuss having the boat wash station. So I don't think we ever went anywhere with that discussion. I think Mr. Creaser had thought about it for a bit and we haven't gone any further with that, but it's certainly a future item that we can consider. If there are any other comments, I'll go ahead and read the resolution. 9.3 report PW-2022-10, a review of current boat launches in the municipality of Whitestone, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report PW-2022-10, a review of current boat launches in the municipality of Whitestone for information. Can I get someone to move that? Councillor McEwen, seconder.
I'll second.
Councillor Lamb. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on to bylaws. So the first one is 10.1, bylaw 45-2022, being a bylaw to authorize borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $301,643 towards the cost of Oakview Bridge repair, Whitestone Lake Road repair, and Bunny Trail repair. That bylaw 45-2022 being a bylaw to authorize borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $301,643 towards the cost of Oakview Bridge repair, Whitestone Lake Road repair, and Bunny Trail repair be read a first and second time the 6th day of September 2022, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this day, 6th day of September 2022, and numbered bylaw 45-2022. Could I get a mover for this, please?
I'll
Councillor
move, Madam
McEwen.
Chair.
Can I get a seconder? Mayor Comrie. Comments or discussion? Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I get asked this week on this one and the next one for the backhoe, I think. I have two questions about reserves, and I think a very fair question, like why aren't we putting reserves towards the backhoe so that when it costs 183,000, that, you know, maybe half that is in reserves and the other one's coming out of borrowing or whatever. So can someone make a comment? Were there any reserves put aside for any of these projects, including these three here and the backhoe? Were there any reserves used? And and if there were no reserves, why didn't we do it? I guess they're pointing fingers at ourselves. But.
Thank you. I think the answer is that there were no reserves available. However, our treasurer, Manish Kulal, is on the line. And as council knows, he just joined us in January, but he may be able to answer the question. Manish?
Hi, Madam Chair. Hello.
Go ahead, please.
We don't have a particular reserve for, as per my best knowledge. Most of the things you don't go for the loans. Maybe we are stuck with the cash flow. We have a project going on with the nursing station around 900,000, and so we aren't run out of the cash flow. So that's the reason we already withdraw the debentures. This is only draw has been done, and this is a converting draw into a debenture for the 10 years. The term of the loan amount and the interest is 4.17%. So we will pay yearly 2 payments for 10 years of $18,599. So it's coming around 36,000 for the first loan with the debenture 44, bylaw number 44. And the second is we are buying the backhoe. That's 185,000, the bylaw number 46. We don't have a particular reserve for these two as of my best knowledge. The term is 5 years for that, and interest is not around between 5%, 5 to 5.5%. And I'm not sure with the bank because tomorrow is a rate increase by Bank of Canada. It may go a little bit high, 0.5, 75 bit. When you borrow the loan, that day we know what is the interest rate for the from the TD for the backhoe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If I may, Madam Chair. So for clarity, Manish, Treasurer, Kulal, the approved budget did not contemplate using reserves for these purchases. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess my comment is, I think, and certainly I've been part of the decision making, I guess, on this, but maybe we have to think going forward. My recollection was if we went back 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago, that we used to have reserves in some of these accounts that offset the costs of some of the equipment. I hope we haven't shortchanged ourselves by kind of having a 3% or 3.5% tax increase when maybe other communities are having 5 or 6. You know, I'm just surprised that all this is loans. We came up with a strategy years ago when I was on council that interest rates were practically zero and that we should perhaps borrow more over the life of an asset as opposed to trying to pay for it all at one time. And I think that worked out, fine when interest rates were low. But interest rates are going up and they're going to continue to go up. So I think maybe our strategy has to rethink, once you get up to 5, 6, 7, 8%, and who knows how high it's going to go, maybe you have to rethink some of this stuff. So, so the other question I have is 10 years. So how did we pick 10 years on this one? What's the life of the backhoe? How long are we amortizing that over? It's not the life of the backhoe, is it? I thought it was like 5 years. So is a backhoe only a life of 5 years?
I believe he said it was a 5-year term.
5-year loan.
But David Creaser, is the life of a backhoe 5 years?
No, the loan.
I spent 183,000. Are we
Mr.
replacing
Creaser
that
is
5
gone
years?
now.
He's gone now?
Yes.
The idea was that we would, if we were putting a culvert in that it was going to last for 40 years, we would look at a longer term. I just don't know. I guess 5 years is, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the first loan, a debenture is for 10-year amortization. The second loan with the TD is 5-year amortization.
The question is, why did you pick 5 years? As opposed to 7 years or 10 years or why 5?
The TD is giving maximum 4, but they extended for us 5 years. And there is no loan from TD Bank more than 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Should we do a recorded vote? Because we're spending money, so I think we should. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A recorded vote for bylaw 45-2022. Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Yes.
Councillor McEwen.
Yes.
Counselor Woods, sorry,
Yes.
didn't mean to forget your name there, and Chairperson Gore Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay, our second bylaw is 10.2, bylaw 46-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of a backhoe and to authorize a loan in the amount of $183,115.09 for payment towards the above referenced backhoe. That bylaw 46-2022 being a bylaw to authorize, we just need one authorize there. Authorize the purchase of a backhoe and to authorize a loan in the amount of $183,115.09 for payment towards the above referenced backhoe to be read a first and second time the 6th day of September 2022, and to further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed the 6th day of September 2022 and numbered bylaw 46-2022. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Woods, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lamb. Discussion?
Madam Chair, just a question.
Yes, Councillor McEwen.
This information may or may not be readily available, but it's always good to have the cost per annum and have it sort of compared to the annual debenture allowance for municipality. I don't feel it would be that serious of an issue because we've been really well within our allowances from budget time. Although these don't reflect in the budget as has been noted. But I guess that's why we have the $1 million rolling amount of money, or call it what you will, the allowable that we can borrow into for an annual basis. I think it's $1 million or something. So the numbers aren't staggering on in the big picture, I don't think. But if we had those numbers to compare as we purchase large or make large purchases or large debentures, it would be good.
Thank you. We'll make note of that. Madam CEO. Did you want to record a vote again, please?
Thank you. Mayor Comrie,
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Gore Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Okay. And our third bylaw is 10.3, bylaw number 47-2022, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for conditions of approval of consent B35/2021 MJ Development, Inc. That bylaw 47-2022 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for conditions of approval of consent B35/2021 MJ Development, Inc. be read a first and second time this 6th day of September 2022, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed the 6th day of September 2022 and numbered bylaw 47-2022. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor McEwen, and seconder, Councillor Lamb, or Woods, thank you. Any discussion? We do have Mr. Jackson back he's on the phone if there's any questions about this item. I'm hearing none. Is everyone in favor? Carried. So we're into business matters, And the first one is 11.1 Memo Bunny Trail Winter Maintenance, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive memorandum Bunny Trail Winter Maintenance for information. And Mr. Creaser is back on the line. Would you like to comment on your report, Mr. Creaser?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report was put together in response to a request from Councillor Lamb to look into the classifications of the Bunny Trail and the possibilities of entering into an agreement with McDougall for a single municipality to take over the maintenance of the Bunny Trail. And the Bunny Trail is a Class 5 road, which is based upon our annual average daily traffic count as well as our speed limit. We did talk to, I spoke to McDougall on several occasions, and each time they indicated they had no interest in the proposal for one municipality to take over the maintenance. It would create quite a challenge for one municipality to take over that stretch. It's a long stretch. It's far away from each of our bases, which would cause a long turnaround time for reloading our sand and material. But at this time, it doesn't look like McDougall has any interest in it. I can't say I would be interested in of taking that over as well. It's being that it's so far away, it would require more resources, including staffing. Would also be an issue, having enough staff to make the long trips and extend our other routes, especially in the heavy snowfalls. The heavy snowfalls are really resource demanding for the small crew that we have, and to add another stretch or longer stretch at the furthest end of our plow routes would definitely lower the service levels on our other roads, slower response time for sure. So all that had to be looked at as well. And at this time, it's not viable, as we have no interested party in McDougall to even enter into a conversation. Thank you, and I can take questions.
Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, as they say, it takes two to tango, I guess. This came out of a request from some public meetings that I had out in Ardbeg, and you know, Ardbeg has a lot of people, pay a lot of taxes, and their concern, of course, is the inconsistencies, I think, between the two municipalities. And to be frank, I think they were generally more disappointed at the McDougall side of things than they were the Whitestone side of things. So they're saying, you know, these people that work in Perry Sound or work somewhere and are traveling the road in the winter, and they're saying, you know, why can't, I guess, Whitestone do it and you know, find a way to charge back McDougall, right? And you know, there are roads in our community, a couple of them, I think, that we do that. Owls Road, I think, or Owls Lake Road, or what's the one I think? Gray Owl Road, Owls Lake. Gray Owl Road, and but anyway, if we can't do it, we can't do it. It's too bad. But I guess, David, I guess the question is, is there anything you can do with your counterpart at McDougall to ensure that you know, maybe there's a consistency there in terms of winter maintenance in those big snowfalls? It doesn't help you much if one party plows it out at 8 in the morning and the other one does it 2 in the afternoon. You know, how can you work with your counterpart to ensure, you know, some better consistency? Because that was the problem. Councillor Woods was also at the meeting, so he may want to. Have I got it right?
Councillor Woods?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I could tell you from me living out there and owning property out there for years, the going joke with everybody in the municipality is we should rename it the Money Trail, because every time you use it, you got to put money aside to fix the suspension on your vehicle. And I mean, our end is in really good shape, but the McDougall end now is horrible. Until you get to about Miller Drive, where they've redone everything and it looks beautiful, but they didn't touch anything after that, which to me is pretty ridiculous. It would be nice if we could figure out a way to put pressure on them somehow to fix it up. Because I mean, I know people that have lost oil pans in their vehicles and ripped tires off their cars and ended up in ditches, and it is most definitely a very dangerous road. Wintertime, we have done a really good job in the past few years, I would say. But I mean, even summertime right now, you take your car down there, you're definitely spending money on tires, especially, and suspension and tie rods and ball joints. And we have to figure out something with putting pressure on McDougall to clean that road up, because it is absolutely dangerous.
Thank you. Any other comments? We have a member of the public with their hand up. Larry, did you want to make a quick comment?
Yes, I would. When it comes to the winter maintenance on the bunny trail, Whitestone is definitely the one that's lacking, not McDougall. McDougall is there very early in the morning, and they do so everybody can get back and forth to work. Whitestone is the one that's a little late to the party all the time. But I like what Brian says is we need to pressure them somehow to fix the McDougall end of the bunny trail when it comes to the roadwork part of it. Because patching the road with dump truck loads of coal patch and flattening with a backhoe is not really the ideal way to fix a road, in my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Larry. Any other comments? So I need a mover that we receive this memo on the bunny trail winter maintenance. Councillor Woods, can I get a seconder? Councillor Lamb, everyone in favor? Okay, so. Okay, we are on to correspondence. Item 12, whereas the Council of Municipality of Whitestone has received the correspondence items as listed on page 5 of the September 6, 2022 council agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that council received the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion/action. Do any of the councillors have any of the correspondence items they wish to have further discussion on?
I'd like
Councillor
item
McEwen?
D, please, Madam Chair.
Pardon me?
Item D, please.
B, like Bob?
D, no, D as in Dawn.
Okay, thank you.
Mine was the same, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Item D.
So it's the resolution in support of Rail Safety Week.
Mhm.
Any other additional items? Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, E. Firefighter certification.
Okay, E. Okay, any other items? Okay, can I get a mover for this? Councillor McEwen and a seconder. Councillor Lamb. Okay. Carried. Everyone in favor of those? Okay, so item D. Mayor Comrie, did you want to speak to item D?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that we have honored this request in the past, and it happens that we're coming up pretty soon on the week that it is a sort of a national week, I guess, Rail Safety Week. And I would be happy to move the motion that is listed there. I can read it if you like.
I have it in front of me
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you'd
so,
like.
okay, okay,
It
so if you
says,
don't,
resolution in support of Rail Safety Week, whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across Canada from September 19th to 25th, 2022, whereas it is in the public's interest to raise citizens' awareness of the dangers of ignoring safety warnings at level crossings and trespassing on rail property to reduce avoidable deaths, injuries, and damage caused by incidences involving trains and citizens, whereas Operation Lifesaver is a public/private partnership whose aim is to work with the public, rail industry, governments, police services, media, and others to raise rail safety awareness. Whereas CN has requested City Council adopt this resolution in support of its ongoing efforts to raise awareness, save lives, and prevent injuries in communities, including our municipality. And then it says it is proposed by Councillor. So would you like to make that motion, Mayor Comrie?
yes, please.
Could I get a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councillor Joe McEwen. Is everyone in favor of that? Okay, and our second item was E, the firefighter certification. Councillor Lamb, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking perhaps for our fire chief to at some point maybe come back and just talk to us about this. I'm not sure I understand exactly the certification and whether this will apply to our firefighters. And I'm not sure that I think maybe all of us can get an education on what exact training our firefighters go through. And of course, this particular memo is announcing $750,000 grant to support firefighters certification in Ontario. So I would be asking whether that would apply to us and whether we would be applying for some of those funds, or the relevance of all this, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Our fire chief, Bob Whitman, are you on the call? Would you be able to report back to us at this point, or would you like to come back at a future council meeting and summarize how this affects the municipality of Whitestone?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Chair, I can do it now if you wish. That's fine.
Sure, we have time.
Hello. Hey, yeah. So yes, this does apply to Whitestone Fire. It applies to all the fire departments in the province. The province has decided that all the firefighters in the province should be trained to a certain level, which most of our firefighters here are already trained to that level. It's just 5 or 6 of the other firefighters that will have to do some upgrading. And yes, we will be applying for that $750,000 grant, but it's not $750,000 per department. It's divided up over a huge number of fire departments. So I hope that answers your questions. If you have any other questions, I'm glad to answer them.
I guess the question would be, if I joined the fire department and I wanted this certification, what's that involve? Like, I don't want every single detail, but I mean, do you have to take outside courses? Do you have to go somewhere to school? Do you have to, is it all done in-house? Do you have to bring people in? Give me just a little bit more detail, Bob, if you would, on what's involved.
So some of it's, yep. So some of it's done in-house. Some of it through the Parry Sound Fire Departments. We've set up, or they have set up, a recruitment training program. It lasts about 4 months, I think it is. So new firefighters will go there 1 day a week, 1 evening a week, and I believe it's 2 weekends. And you'll do training, most of your training through that, and some of the other training will be done in-house as required. So
and
yes,
currently our firefighters do not go through this, is that correct?
So most of our firefighters have went to the fire college in the past, but as you're aware, there is no fire
college.
Okay, okay. So this is kind of
So-
sort of, in a way, replacing the fire college? Is that a
No,
fair
they shouldn't have. They had to come up with something after they closed the fire college, so this is what they're coming up with.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so we're on to number 13, counselor items. Do we have any items from any of the counselors? Counselor Woods?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few. Over the weekend, I had a few people stop in my driveway with some complaints, sorry, about some of the work that we had done down Farley's Road and damaging the habitat of the monarch butterflies. A few people were really upset, caught some comments online. I realized that we have to do some roadside ditching to keep our roads in good shape. I was just wondering if maybe we could try and organize that outside of the season when the caterpillars are there and the monarchs are laying their eggs. If we have done that, could we look at planting more milkweed somewhere else in the municipality to try and offset some of the effects there? That was the first one. I would love to be able to talk to my neighbors and tell them that we're actually looking at that, because there's quite a few people down Farley's Road that are very upset about it. Second one, I want to compliment staff on fixing the ramp down at the public beach here. We had that plastic decking, I want to call it, and there was always an issue. It was cracking and holes through it and patchwork. And it appears David Creaser and the roadworks guys are fixed it all up, put new deck boards down there. It looks great. It's a lot safer. Kids aren't pinching their toes going up and down the ramp, which is a great thing. And the last one, Gooseneck Lake. When we all talked about doing the upgrades at Gooseneck, it was mentioned, and I thought we all agreed that we were going to put a plaque commemorating our late mayor, Chris Armstrong, out at the dock. And I don't think that's ever been done. I was just wondering if we still had intentions on doing that. I think it would be a great thing. Chris was out in Ardbeg for a very long time, and I think it'd be a great way to commemorate him. We did all the work there, and it looks fantastic. It's well used for sure. And I know it's very much appreciated. I was just wondering if we could get a plaque out there.
Madam CEO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm drawing a blank. I don't recall a council resolution to that effect, but that's certainly something I can look back on, and it. Okay, then I missed that. So yeah, we will arrange for a plaque to be installed, to be manufactured and installed. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Sorry, I missed that.
Any other councilor items? Okay, so we will move on to questions from the public. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know an awful lot about this, but I seem to remember earlier this year, I believe it was, there was a discussion at council regarding Belvedere Heights, that the province was going to take over responsibility for the beds, and they were going to build a new old people's home, for want of a better expression, next to the hospital. And I know that the council agreed to something, and I don't know what, but they agreed to the proposal. The reason I bring it up is that a friend of mine I play golf with, he's 82 years old. He and his wife are residents of the existing Belvedere Heights, and they've been given a notice to get out within a year. And this has been given to everybody. And the problem is that they've got nowhere to go. It seemed there was no consideration from the time they had to leave Belvedere to the time this new facility is going to be built. And there are people there in wheelchairs. There are people who basically, I think they're paying $800 a month, and it's a problem. My friend bought his apartment for $187,000 10 years ago. And it was going to be his final residence before he left. And they apparently have 50-year leases. And they've gone to a lawyer to object, for want of a better expression, that they can't be kicked out. Because basically, you look at the residents that are available in Parrystown area, there aren't any. So these people are stuck in the top, and the clock's ticking. So I don't know whether council can do anything or what their involvement is. I don't know who owns Belvedere Heights. I know it's being sold. But anyway, I said I would bring it up at the council meeting, so I've done my part.
Thank you, Mr. Can. I'll have perhaps Mayor Comrie could comment on this. He's our representative on the board of Belvedere Heights. Mayor Comrie, did you want to comment?
Yes, I can briefly, Madam Chair. Some of the assertions that we just heard are not in fact correct. I mean, nobody is being kicked out. There isn't there's nothing, there has been no sale or anything like that of any of, like, no sale of the building or any kind of that sort of a thing. What happened was that this I'm assuming that the persons that you're referring to, it sounded like Ed Can as it was speaking, I'm assuming, but the persons you were talking about are in what are referred to as the life lease units. What has happened is that the bulk of Belvedere, which is a long-term care facility under the Long-Term Care Act, it is owned by, in fact, the whole building is owned by area municipalities, including Whitestone and some of the others that are in East Parry Sound. So there are a number of a number of municipalities that own it. And some time ago, those municipalities decided that it really did not make sense for us to continue to be in the long-term care business. So what we did was we asked, and this started before I joined the board, which is fairly recently, but we asked the province to take over the beds, and that's a process that is defined in the Long-Term Care Act. And the suggestion was that there would be options for other facilities that would be constructed before, before the beds were turned over and before anybody was displaced, quote unquote, from the building, that there would be some assurance that there were in fact places for them to go. And this matter has been in front of the government of Ontario for quite some time, and we don't have an answer. So as of today, it is business as usual. The board has started buying as folks who are part of Life Lease continue to, as they reach the point where they either don't want to continue to live there or they pass away or whatever happens, the board is repurchasing those units so that people get in effect get their money out of it, so that they put in. So that's basically what is happening. But really, there's no. I mean, we're waiting on the government to decide what they want to do. There have been specific requests and proposals made to them, and they're under consideration, but we don't have any answers. So as I say, really, all I can tell you is it's business as usual. What happened, I think, was that the board, in the spirit of, full disclosure, said, went and spoke to representatives, of the board went and spoke to the residents of the life lease units and said to them, here's what's going on. And I would say the majority of them, accepted that it probably wasn't going to affect them, but there are one or two who were concerned that somehow or other they were going to get displaced, and we have tried to assure them that that's not happening, and there will be, there will be arrangements in place to accommodate people. Nobody's going to get end up on the street. I can assure you of that. So that's really that's all I can say. With, I mean, most of the details of this are because they involve sales of individual people's property and so on. They're actually confidential, but as a matter of policy, I think you got the idea that's where this is going.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could make a comment, I think what Mr. Cannon is trying to advocate for is that as a municipality that is a business partner in this, and for the sake of disclosure, I'm just going to say that my mother lives in the life lease at Belvedere, and she's one of the people that's going to be displaced. That the practice Mr. Cannon brought up of paying the life lease residents what they paid for their residents isn't a fair practice, given that they're going to have to find new homes in today's economy. Most of them are not going to be able to afford a new home. And you can be sure that the municipality isn't going to be selling Belvedere at below market value. So you would think that the people that live in these life lease apartments would be paid fair market value for their. And I think that's what Mr. Cannon is trying to say, is that perhaps we should be supporting fair practices as we're moving these people out. But I'm saying as a pecuniary interest that my mother lives there. So, but I do have inside knowledge on this. Any other questions from the public? Mr. Morrison.
Yep.
Marker there. Thank you very much. Dennis Morrison, Vice Chair of the Whitestone Conservation Association. This is kind of a public service announcement. On Saturday morning, 10 till 12, we are hosting an all candidates meeting. All 8 candidates have accepted the invitation, and this is an invitation for all the public to come and join us for 2 hours of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison, and thank you for the WCA for organizing that on behalf of the municipality and the ratepayers to get more information. Any other questions from the public? Oh, can you use the microphone, please? And yes, and state your name, please.
I just want to comment. This is, I don't know anything about what's going on with this situation at Belvedere Heights, but what you said, that's terrible. These people paid this amount of money for their apartments or units, and now they're just going to give them what they paid for them, and now they have to go find accommodation at inflated prices based on maybe 10 years that they've been in there. That's terrible. They should be compensated properly.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I did not say that. This is this is other people talking. This is not what I said, and that's not what the board is saying.
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. Any other questions from the public? So we'll do our confirming bylaw. That bylaw 48-2022 being the confirmatory bylaw for the council meeting of Tuesday, September 6, 2022, be given a first, second, third, and final reading and is passed as of this date.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. I guess seconder. Councillor McEwen. Everyone in favor? And I think we're on the adjournment bylaw. Whereas the business of this meeting has concluded, and now therefore be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 9:23 until the regular council meeting of September 20th, 2022 at 6:30 PM or at the call of the chair. And I saw Councillor Woods give the okay. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second Madam Chair, since I don't very often get to move or second adjournment, but with a vote of thanks to you for filling in this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. And everyone in agreement? Thank you, everyone, for joining us online, and thank you for everyone joining us here.